Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. We're so glad that you're joining us for the Master Gardener webinar for July. I'm glad that you're here and taking care of your continuing education credits. I am Wendy Wilbur, the Master Gardener statewide coordinator here in Gainesville, and we got a good webinar for you today. So to get started, if you'd like to go ahead and drop in the chat box where you're joining from today, whether you're from Pensacola or Key West or Jacksonville or Naples, we crisscross the state. So let's see who is jumping into the chat box. Welcome from Orlando, Orange County. Welcome from Osceola County, Volusia County, Alachua County. Welcome from Bay County. Glad you all are here too. Duval County, Brevard County. We got a good group of people coming in for July. And I know that some of you are actually not even in Florida, you're traveling or in your maybe a second location. So we're really glad that you're here as well. So thank you for popping into the chat box for that. So this is our webinar for July. It's gardening and AI or artificial intelligence, how to spot a fake and to catch a thief. So we'll be joined by Lauren in just a few moments. And I want to remind you that our book club started in June, and we will be having our wrap-up meeting on August 14th at 2 p.m. It's still not too late to jump into that if you are interested. It's been a great book. We've really enjoyed reading it by Rhonda Fleming Hayes. And I do need to remind you that we are having the International Master Gardener Conference May 2nd through 6th in Orlando in 2027. So more is coming on that, but please plan on attending this awesome conference. Florida hasn't hosted in decades, so we're really thrilled to bring the International Master Gardener Conference back to Florida and to showcase our horticulture and the wonderful master gardeners we have here. So for the webinar, if you wouldn't mind using the question answer box for your points of clarity, or if you have a question, and then Lauren will come back and answer those either at the end of the webinar, or if it's something really important that has to be said right away, she'll jump into the to the presentation and answer your questions. So use the question answer box. Okay, our presenter today is Lauren Goldsby. She is the Horticulture Extension Agent in Bay County, which is in Panama City, Florida. She coordinates the Master Gardener volunteers there and leads the horticulture educational programming there. Lauren received her master's in at UF in horticulture sciences, and she and I have share a major advisor or a course of study in horticulture sciences. We both studied blueberries back in the day. So me a long time ago, Lauren just recently. So Lauren, we are so grateful that you're here. This is a wonderful presentation, and I know the Master Gardeners are going to get a lot out of it. So thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and stop share and give you an opportunity to share. So thanks, everyone.
I am going to share my screen now. Thank you so much, Wendy, for that introduction. I'm so excited to be here talking about a topic that really grinds my gears. It is something that I can get on social media and really get kind of stuck in a cycle, just seeing these and thinking about people getting scammed, buying some of these AI generated plants. That's kind of what inspired me to write an article about this and eventually do this presentation just to kind of give us some tools on how we can be better prepared, not only for ourselves, but also for our clientele when we're trying to decipher if these are real plants or if there's a scam going on. Just as a disclosure before I start, I'm going to use some photos that could be from certain websites, could be from certain things. We're not giving an approval of any of these, but just using them for examples. So I'm going to start with this video. This is actually a video that my mom sent me saying, "Is this real?" And right now, with where AI is, I think we can pretty clearly delineate that this is not a real video or real people talking, but pretty soon it might get a little bit harder to do this. But this one kind of, if you're not familiar with some of these tactics that are going on, this really covers a lot of them.
I posted a video about this sacred plant and the comments blew up. Everyone wanted to know where to get the plant or the seeds, so here's the link where you can grab the seeds. This one's a double bloomer, absolutely stunning, like drop dead gorgeous. It's obsessed with sunlight, and the more sun it gets, the more flowers it throws out. And the best part? It's ridiculously easy to grow. This thing's a total beast, doesn't care if it's buried in snow or blasted by the sun. The hotter it gets, the harder it blooms. You can grow it anywhere, balcony, pot, yard, whatever. August is prime jasmine planting season, by the way. Once you plant the seeds or get your hands on the plant, it basically refuses to die. It just keeps coming back year after year. Mine started from seed, planted them last year, and this is already round 2 of blooming. I posted a video about this.
So, if you heard in this video, they not only give a lot of references to this plant doing things that most plants can't do, thriving in the heat and the cold, growing all year round, being easy to start from seed. They call it a jasmine at one point, and their biggest goal is that they are driving you towards the link for the seeds that they're trying to sell. Now, these are the same tactics they use in standard photos that we're seeing. And all of this is an AI generated video that not a real person made or had anything to do with at least being in the video. I'm going to start with some definitions just so that we're all on the same page about what these tools are and what people are using them for. So, in general, artificial intelligence is going to be when computers are designed to perform more complex tasks that normally require human reasoning. It's not just a simple binary code like we're used to computers operating under. Machine learning is kind of a step above that, where AI can improve its performance over time as it learns from the experience, the data, or it's fed other media. And then large language models, or LLMs as they're commonly referred to, are going to be more applications of that machine learning that really generate human-like text and images. So it looks a lot more like a human wrote it rather than an obvious computer system. We use AI every day without really realizing it. If we're talking to Siri or getting Alexa to start a timer, our photo album face recognition that's ingrained in your phone before you even download anything, your GPS route, and a lot of the plant ID apps that people are using more and more. One of my favorite uses of AI is when it tells me if something is busy before I get there. It's kind of ingrained into society as we are right now. These large language models, though, are a more recent development in AI. And if you look at this photo here, this was made with just a prompt of write a like a social media post for warning people about AI scams. And what this generated is a really common text and format that you'll see when using these large language models. Typically, they use a good amount of emojis. They give you kind of a standard front and then oftentimes give bullet points or kind of a middle ground of what you're looking at, and then often some hashtags and an ending there. And there's nothing using these large language models to create things like this, but it's just good practice to get used to seeing what it looks like. That's a lot of what we're going to talk about today is what are the clues that we're looking for that kind of sticks out as something being AI generated. Before we get into those, I do want to say that AI can be a really powerful tool in agriculture, and it's commonly being used in data collection, scouting. You can use different frequencies to determine if there might be a single pest problem that can allow for more targeted chemical applications and less reliance on human labor. So that can look like someone not having to be the person who is applying those chemicals, as well as spot applications that can really target a pest before they get bad. On the left here, you see some blueberry roots that unfortunately AI did not help me draw over, but in the future, more tools like that are being made to make data collection and research a lot easier. Here's an AI generated photo that I would say is not trying to scam anyone. It has, some things that are a little bit larger than life. You see a blurred background, you see some butterflies that don't look realistic, but sometimes these images are just used to kind of maybe inspire people or get people really probably get more likes on their social media. But we're not seeing a link to anything being sold. That's the first thing that I want you to think about when you're looking at an image or a sale and trying to determine if a scam is going on. That is when the red flags go off for me. Is someone trying to sell you something? Oftentimes, these sales will also include like a timer countdown that something's on sale and it's 50% off, and you only have 10 minutes to make your decision. The next thing we're going to look for is, do these growing practices make sense? Here on this webinar, we've all been trained in those standards of growing practices, and you all have different experiences in other areas that might help you to determine if it makes sense that something is being sold from a seed, or if something looks a specific way that you've never seen before. Unnatural details in the photos also really stand out as something potentially being AI generated. Some of these include a blurred background, things that, biological systems typically aren't perfect. And so seeing a perfect photo or something that looks a little bit too perfect will stand out to us there. And then reviews, especially when there's a sale, I want us to help people focus on the reviews that they're seeing and what those reviews are really saying. So I was doing some research yesterday and looking at different sales. And really, if you just type in rare seeds to any of these websites, you can typically find some pretty bad offenders. Two that stuck out to me are the first one over on our left are these Calathea mixed seeds. And a lot of our tropical plants are not grown from seed. They're typically grown, at least at this point, from a tissue culture or other vegetative separations. And most of our calatheas don't even produce viable seeds. So there's not a market for seeds being sold for a specimen like this. It's just not realistic. Whether or not people are being sold seeds that will never germinate, or if they're being sold something else, is something that we're not really sure of. Hopefully they're not being sold in invasive species or something like that, but getting a random mix of seeds is up in the air. And then also down here we've got someone selling orchid seeds, which if you're familiar with orchid production, the seeds are typically going to be grown in like a nutrient-rich agar media in a very, very sterile environment where it's going to probably take years for that plant to grow sizable enough to produce a flower, let alone all of these different varieties being shown here being sold as one type of orchid seed. And then you're getting 50 of them for $5. Here you can see that example in both pages of that 50% off sale ends in 15 hours. Or here you've got one day to get that 20% off. But we can also see that it's in 20 plus carts. This is not something that people really in the public are aware of as a problem yet. They're purchasing these seeds, they're excited about growing these plants. And what that can lead to is not only frustration or different plants being grown that we're allowed to, but I think it can also turn people off from gardening. We always say here that we want to set people up for success. And this is a way to really get not success from your seeds and then maybe not want to try again next time you have that opportunity. The next thing that I look at is the information that they give you for the growing practice. So we've determined that these don't make sense to grow from seeds necessarily for some. This is specifically from a butterfly begonia that we'll talk about later. It's a whole nother group of plants that people try to sell in itself. But as we observed from that large language model that we looked at before, this is a pretty similar setup with those bullet points, those emojis, and bolding in specific areas. They give pretty basic growing requirements that matches from a wide range of species that you can see, as well as care instructions that aren't very specific. This one really tickled me because when you use a large language model, they typically give you some information. This version uses a clean, modern format with clear sections and fresh icons to differentiate it from the original while maintaining a professional and engaging tone. So this person was clearly working a little bit with that language model to get it specifically how they wanted. They just forgot to remove it from their plant listing. So some things like that can really jump out immediately at us for something that was AI generated. Here's a listing for some tomato seeds, which you don't always see AI generated vegetable seeds being sold. It's typically more house plants that I've observed, and I'm not really sure if these seeds would come as tomatoes or if they would come as something entirely different. 100 tomato seeds for a little bit under $9 would be a very good deal. But what jumps out to me here is that every single tomato that you see is red, ripe, and the same exact size. Here I've pulled some photos from the UF database where you can see that while we may have clusters that are completely red and ripe at the same time, it's not likely that we see that perfect coloring all the way throughout. So this photo would cause me to dig a little bit deeper. I mean, those are very, very long, fully formed tomato seeds there, or tomatoes there that should give us a pause and look into a little bit more, maybe read some reviews and see what could be going on there. Additionally, plant morphology is something that can be a hint if these photos are AI generated or not. Here on the right, we see a true zinnia patch with leaves that look just like a zinnia leaf does. But on the left, we see this AI generated zinnia leaf with serrated edges, which is not how a zinnia grows in any one that I've seen. Again, are they selling zinnia seeds? Not quite sure. But when we're purchasing from, a more reputable source, I would expect them to use and have the knowledge that this is not what a zinnia looks like when it grows. These ones are a little bit sillier, but if you're on social media, this is a lot of times what you see being shared. It's not those subtle details like we spoke about earlier. It's more these bright, flashy colored plants, larger than life. You see a lot of elephant ear bulb, and they are selling bulbs. They're not selling them as seeds, but you see these giant elephant ear bulbs the size of houses with colors that we typically don't see in any elephant ear that I've observed. On the right, you also have these colorful hostas. They really like to use these as an example. And I just want to point out the different flower structures that we see here. Oftentimes, that is a big clue that something different could be going on. We not only see a difference in the morphology of the flower structures here, we also see a lot of variation in the color patterns. And that's something that we may see petunias that have different color patterns. We may see multiple different kinds of patterns within the same species, but it's typically not this far reaching. We typically don't see that much diversity in one single species. As well as, again, people are typically not growing hostas from seed. They're typically starting with a vegetative plant or a division or something like that, especially not a new gardener. You see a lot of inexperienced gardeners really seeking out these plants. And again, hurry up, this is how quick your sale ends. They're really pushing people to make that quick decision. And what happens with these sales is that people may receive their seeds, they may try and grow them, and something may germinate. Sometimes they may get no germination, but at this point, they've waited too long to be able to refute the sale and get a return. Um, we'll talk about reviews a little bit later, but they may also have already reviewed the product without knowing that it's going to come up. So those reviews can look a little bit skewed. Here's that butterfly begonia that really is one of the worst offenders that I see. People would really love to be purchasing this plant. And unfortunately, it just does not exist. So, one thing in a lot of these um, sales or advertisements that we see is that there's no scientific name or genetic information given. And that can make it really tricky to search for this plant and to get a reliable resource that tells you if it's real or not. In more long established places that are selling seeds and plants, you will typically always see that scientific information. And even in hybrids and crosses, that's especially when you'll see the different crosses that have been, bred together and made this plant. So what sticks out to me here is not only that genetic information being missing, but also this just larger than life leaf. We see a lot of different shaped leaves, especially animal shaped leaves and flowers. That's what people would really like to see and share a lot. But there's also differences within this plant in the types of leaves or flowers that you're seeing, as well as some of these kind of middle ground places where that language model or generative image didn't really get it completely right. Additionally, just like that Hosta advertisement that we saw, you'll see a lot of variation within the photos that they show you being sold under the same seeds. So typically, we wouldn't really see a seed pack that can give us that much diversity unless it's, a really early F1 generation of something when it hasn't been bred to have that specificity and continuation of the same genes. Here we see a lot of differences between the photos being sold under the same seed pack. And they can be fun to look at. It's a great thought, but just not something that someone can reliably grow at home. And who knows what type of seeds they're getting in. So I want to hone in on those blue colored plants because I do see a lot of those in the images that are being shown as those AI scams. And just going over the most common plant pigments that we see, chlorophyll, carotenoids, and anthocyanins, these pigments are going to be responsible for absorbing and reflecting light and then giving the plants their colors that we see. Chlorophyll, of course, being that green color, carotenoids giving us those yellow and oranges, almost fall colors that we see. And then anthocyanins being responsible for those purples, reds, pinks, and sometimes blues, in the sense of, blueberries and some other fruits like that. What's specific about these pigments is that when you crush them or dilute them in some way, they're going to give you that color. They're giving you the colors that we're seeing here. They can even be used to make some paint or art or dyes, but those pigments are going to show true when they are crushed up. However, a true blue that we're seeing in a lot of these AI generated images is not really frequent to see in nature. In the form of blueberries, you're going to have more of a waxy coating on top of the leaves, as well as some agave species will do this too, that give you that kind of bluish color. But when you grind them up and when you would see the pigment, it's often going to show more purple because of those anthocyanins. There are some cases, like in hydrangeas, where some anthocyanins can be bound with metals that are in the soil, especially under a environment that do give you that bright blue color, species specific. There are some species like types of begonias as well as the peacock fern that you see on the right that do have this blue color that people are really searching for, especially when they see that butterfly begonia that they're sharing images of. And this is not a true pigment. If you were to crush these leaves up, they're actually going to give you a green color rather than the blue that you may be expecting. The reason behind this is that a lot of these plants are coming from a very shade developed area. So they might be on the floor of the rainforest or somewhere where there's a lot of canopy coverage overhead, and the inside of them end up themselves in order to collect and harvest as much light as they possibly can. They get about 10% by doing this. And we can see on the left here, the standard arrangement of the chloroplast in most plants is kind of haphazard. It's catching as much light as it can, as well as being in different areas because it's not necessary for those chloroplasts to get more light. They have enough light. Oftentimes, light actually they can say, we got enough light. We don't really need more. We might be harmed by that. But when these shade developed various organize their chloroplasts into very strict stacks, you almost get a crystallizing effect that you see in the leaves. The light has an opportunity to bounce a lot more throughout those chloroplasts, and it ends up reflecting that blue light. So often these leaves will have kind of a sparkly effect to them and almost a blue-green tinge. But again, if we grind them up, this is not a pigment that's causing this, it's a structure. So again, when we look at these, what they're calling legit coleus or coleus blue rare flowers, especially these butterflies that they're showing, it's not common that we see that structural chloroplast giving us that blue color in many species. And this is something that is harder to explain to the public, but another way that we can kind of think about how is it possible? Is it possible that this blue color is really being shown in this many plants? The blurred backgrounds are really, really common to see in AI generated photos. Here, all of these photos look fairly AI generated at first glance. They don't really look like a true image. It almost has that cloudy, uncanny valley look to it. But these blurred backgrounds are really to hide inconsistencies that we see. So they're doing their best to they might show you a little bit of the background, but they don't want to show too much of the foliage in case something is wrong. So a blurred background really stands out as something that could indicate an AI generated plant. This is a listing for nasturtium seeds that I stumbled across. And at first glance, what I'm noticing is that blurred background first. The blurred background may be hiding, again, some of those inconsistencies, but we're seeing very perfect leaves and perfect flowers, all the flowers and leaves facing the same direction, and not much differences between those leaves. I pulled some pictures of a messy garden that I've had in the past, but really what you can see is normal damage that we expect in those plants. There might be some leaf miner activity, someone might have stepped on it a little bit, but a lot of those flowers are covered by the foliage or sometimes facing different directions than what we see in this very small snapshot image. This may be an example of seeds that are not lying about what they're selling. This isn't a fake plant. This isn't something that on paper they're immediately trying to trick you with, but it's just a good time to note this is AI generated. What Why are they not showing us a real image? Are there reviews we can read? Are there other things that we can see to know that this is a sale or a purchase that we want to make? Customer reviews. So occasionally you'll come across a space where there are no reviews at all. And that can make it really difficult to make a decision on what to purchase. Sometimes they will tell you that there are no reviews. Sometimes that review box will just be completely missing. But when there are reviews, what I've noticed is that they're typically fairly recent. So these were pulled this week just to keep them updated. You can see that they're coming from the past couple months. So if someone had planted the seeds and had a negative review after, we're not given the opportunity to see that. But what we're seeing is 5 stars all the way down. And what they're telling us is not much about the actual plants. They're letting us know that, well, these are seeds being sold, but they said the plants arrived in great condition, very nice plants, good quality, received right on time, and the items matched the description. These are very loose ideas for what a real review would potentially say and point us in the direction that these could have been reviews made for a profit somehow. Sometimes people will get paid in order to give fake reviews on a sale. And that's what this is pointing out to me, that it's something that's not really very specific to the item that they were purchasing. Additionally, here we do have some more information, at least on the seeds, but it's just telling us that they received the seeds. They can't wait to plant them. The item was packaged well. You'll see a lot of responses based on the packaging of the item and the fact that they have planted the seeds and they're excited for them to germinate. Um, what this can point to occasionally is maybe within the package that they got, they get a coupon if they post a review or something that leads them to post that review quickly rather than wait until the plants have germinated. You also may see some that they don't really make sense. I don't have images of those here, but ones that make you think, did this person even receive these seeds? Was this something that, again, was a paid promotion in order to make this review? The real plants that we have in our natural world are really beautiful and diverse. You all know that, or else you probably wouldn't have decided to be a Master Gardener volunteer. There is so much diversity in the natural world that really has inspired me and a lot of us to dive into it more. This is something that we can use to look at in order to know, there is diversity in these plants, but not necessarily in the way that these AI generated photos are showing us. I hope that eventually the models don't get good enough to trick us in this way, but what we can really see is natural desiccation of some plants. This is a close-up image with a blurred background, but we're seeing other things in the background other than just plants going everywhere. This one, gorgeous. Maybe you could trick me into thinking that it's an AI generated image, but we're seeing different life stages of the seeds as well. Not every flower is open, and there is differences between the different flowers. Jewel orchids are one of my favorite ones to think about when I think of plants that look out of this world. You can see between the different varieties here that there are slight differences between, but if someone was selling one seed for the jewel orchids and they used all three of these photos, that would stand out to us to know that these are different species. Those seeds are not going to create all of this diversity between them. And we can use that to our advantage when helping someone to determine if an AI generated scam is going on. We have resources that we can use to show different aspects of those same species. So I have a link to this or a QR code at the end of the presentation, but the Royal Botanical Gardens from Kew is a great resource when you're especially looking at different tropical plants, rather than just native Florida species, to really see different parts of the plant that can help with identification. Having the flower structure here is incredibly helpful when we're determining if this plant looks like what they're showing us, as well as some different angles of the leaves and presentations of those variegations there. Again, we have a different species of the jewel orchid and different presentations of how that may look, not just one image that we're going off of. So being able to lead people to these sites or help them identify if something even exists, it's a great resource to be able to do that. Here are the three resources that I would say are really great at determining, getting more images from them. The Florida Plant Atlas for species that we have here in Florida. The USDA germplasm resource is great on a larger scale, as well as the Plants of the World online from the Royal Botanical Gardens at Kew. We also have specialists on campus that can always help if there's something that we are really unsure of, but typically going through these AI generated photos, once you see a few and once you see those tricks that they're commonly using throughout them, you'll get more comfortable in spotting these. And you will, if my phone's listening like it normally does, you'll see them pop up on your social media. I feel like just from us talking about them. They are something again that people may be sharing just for fun, but once they are trying to sell them to us, it should give us a pause and a little bit of thought behind what we could be purchasing. A lot of the plant identification apps have been really helpful for, getting a first glance at some species that we have in the door or trying to determine what something could be. But I wouldn't trust them when identifying AI images, just because they don't yet have that human reasoning to determine all of the different ideas that we talked about here. They may be able to determine if it's on the internet, if there's a photo of it that already exists, and that can just kind of further the confusion that people may have. So we have seen people trying to use those plant identification apps to determine AI generation or that scam, and it's just not really a trusted resource as they're fed with media from the internet that already exists. That's where our human reasoning is really still helpful and keeping our jobs. So AI has a lot of positive implications still when it's used correctly. But there are potential scams that are out there and continuing to be out there. But we can have tools to help clients and to help our friends to know if there's a scam going on and if something could be a little bit more predatory. These are some information that I used and works cited, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that we have.
Okay, Lauren, we've got a bunch of questions and a bunch of
Awesome.
thank yous. Um, the first is from one of the attendees. They say, "Thank you. This is wonderful information, Lauren." And they're asking, "Are you pulling these seed ads from all sorts of websites, or are there some websites that are worse than others?"
That's a great question. For the research that I did specifically on this presentation, I pulled from different Etsy sellers. So it's not necessarily just that website, it's different sellers that can sell through the conglomerate. I would say that's a point where I would feel a little bit more cautious. It's not a single website because oftentimes a couple people get scammed, it's reported, and a whole website would be taken down. But sellers like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, anywhere that someone can make their own private shop and sell through them, as well as like social media sales. You can buy things through Facebook, you can buy things through TikTok. Those are times where I would say the AI scams can run a little bit more rampant because there's just, that tiny shop gets closed down, another one pops up pretty quickly.
Perfect. This is something you and I were talking about before the webinar started. But what about the use of dyes to change the color of plants? How do we ID that versus AI? And, you know, she mentions that she's seen dye in water used to change the color of a cactus.
Yes, that is common and it can be so frustrating because you're at the store, even like if you're seeing them in person, a lot of people get tricked by that. Um, and oftentimes it is paint on top of the leaves or a dye that is taken up by the plant or the flowers and then you see it. It's like the science experiment that we've all done. I would say again, going back to those resources that we have of cultivars and not only what we expect them to see. So if we see a purple hosta, that's something that is less common. For a lot of our foliage plants, that paint would cause decline a lot quicker than we see in maybe the cactuses that are covered in paint. Those seem to have a slower decline. But I would say using those online resources as well as the specialists that we have to help us kind of narrow down if it's possible for that plant to produce that color. But neon colors, really bright colors like that, unless, again, we were talking about those gorgeous coleus that we expect a coleus to have a wide variety of colors and really intricate patterns. But if we're seeing it on something like a hosta or maybe our tropical houseplants, it would be a lot less common there.
Um, Someone commented, it's not really a question, but just an observation that if it looks too good to be true, then it probably is, which I think is exactly what you're saying, Lauren.
Yes, that's a great point. If it's something, especially for you guys on this call, if it's something you've never seen before, when a lot of us have really been interested in plants for a long time or maybe even worked in them, there's probably a reason.
Another question for you is, have we ever considered actually ordering some of the seeds to determine what they are and then referring sort of the seller to maybe Department of Ag or anybody else for investigation? Is this sort of a CSI situation where we should try and find out what the seeds are and hunt them down? I'm assuming that's going to be a no, but
I'm going to be honest, I've absolutely thought about it. I don't think that UF would want me to use program funds for that necessarily. Maybe they would. We can always get with business services. But as a side project, I mean, yeah, it makes me so angry. It makes me really want to do that. I would say if you do that, growing them in an enclosed area would be really important. Not putting them in the ground, not offering a situation where a species that's invasive or something like that could get out into the environment. A lot of times you do end up seeing maybe one review that someone says nothing came up and it's been 3 weeks. In that case, I almost think you could spend time just reporting those online businesses, especially for things like the butterfly begonia, without ordering those seeds. But it would be an interesting little side project to find out what they're actually sending.
very much so. Brad was asking if we can get a list of the information that you showed at the end of your presentation. If you'll send me those links, I can add them to the video recording. And so when the video is posted, it will have those links in the description. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So we'll get those out to attendees. And if you want to check back for the recording, it should be posted in the next week or so. Um, there's Everyone's saying what a wonderful presentation, Lauren, and thank you so much for taking the time. I don't see any more specific questions, so we'll say goodbye for this time, and we'll see you guys back here next month for the webinar in August. Everybody have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us. Thank you again, Lauren.
Thank you for having me, y'all.